You're listening to MMA Oddsbreaker. I'm Frank Trigg. Today on the phone we have Court McGee getting ready to fight Robert Whitaker over at UFC Fight Night 27 in Indianapolis. Court, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing fantastic.
Let's get the traditional stuff out of the way. I'm going to assume all the answers are going to be positive. Training camp went great. The best of your life. You feel you're in the best shape you've ever been in. What else is new during training camp?
Well, we worked a little bit more on power. Instead of just speed, the last fight we came out and threw lots and lots of punches, and this time we're at the end of those combinations. We're going to try and sit down on some power and try and knock this guy out.
Yeah, I actually wanted to ask you about that because with Costas Philippou, we're going back a couple of fights, 3 fights ago. You lost unanimous decision, and it seemed like that you were throwing a lot of punches without any power during that fight, and then go to the Josh Neer fight. You still were throwing a lot of punches, but with a lot more power. Is this something that you've been progressively trying to work on, is keeping your punch rate up as well as getting your power back in there as well?
Yeah, we want to mix of both. We want to move our feet a lot. Philippou, I didn't cut him off that well. I kind of followed him, shot a lot of times, wasn't successful in taking him down, and resorted to shooting and then coming up and throwing punches because he wouldn't tie up for fear of the takedown. So, also, too, I didn't want to follow the guy around. I want to cut the guy off and use the cage to my advantage to wear them guys out. And, after I hit him, get out of the way. So I don't get caught.
Who's the coach you've been specifically working with to get you ready for this?
John Hackelman.
And now Hackelman's been known forever for having guys get good foot motion and good hand speed and getting their power up and moving quite a bit. And with Hackelman, did he make any other changes besides just let's work on foot motion and power? Was there a couple other tricks and trades he put in there as well?
Always conditioning. We always change and work new methods of conditioning. Also, too, I do half of my camp out there in Arroyo Grande, where the pit headquarters where Chuck did all his camps, Chuck Liddell. And the other half I do it in Utah, in Orem, Utah. And Jason Mertlick's my coach out there, and he works more of the wrestling and the jiu-jitsu, but we also do our striking, and the majority of my partners are out there in Utah. I have, all my bigger 170 and 185 and some 205 pound fighters that I have for training partners.
Now, why do you split the time? Is it because John's down in Arroyo Grande and you go back into Utah, or why are you splitting time between the two camps?
I split it. It's a good mix because they both do really good conditioning, but it's a little bit different. And so I never it's like I never plateau because I change from one to the other. We both work on conditioning, but primarily we work a lot more striking and a lot more out of John Hackelman's, and then in Utah we work a lot more of the jiu-jitsu and the wrestling. We have a great wrestling coach named Justin Reese. He comes in and works with us, and so we get to work the two different aspects of the game. But also, too, we still spar and we drill at both of them. It just changes it up a little bit, and then the conditioning is just a little bit different. Equally as hard, but I don't ever plateau because I'm not doing the same thing all.
What is your last day of hard sparring during a training camp? Because I know with the amount of conditioning that you do and the amount of hard mitt work and drilling you do, that putting in another couple of days of hard sparring every week is going to be difficult. So when is your last day that you actually hard spar before a fight?
So the last day I had a hard conditioning workout was third. We fight on Wednesday, so just Thursday last week was sparring and conditioning. And the next day, the Friday before, this Wednesday, I had a drilling round. So there wasn't any hard sparring, but there was lots of hard drilling, striking, and lots of wrestling and takedowns. Just some of the little tactics we're going to try and come out and beat this guy with. And then we finished off with a little short conditioning, but not super intensive.
And how much do you do once you get during once you're at the venue? How much? Because now it's just about making weight and being the best way that you can be for the fight. Come on Wednesday night. What do you do that week as far as, because you're always in great shape when you come in the fight, which is why it's very difficult to get you to finish you at all, because you're always in better shape than your opponent. So what do you do during that week to keep that shape up, even though you're trying not to get hurt or lose too much energy?
and see, there's a fine line because we still like to push it. We still like to drill. Sometimes I bring a partner, sometimes I don't. But we work a lot of mitts. We do little short conditioning, so we'll do, things like sprawl drills, and where I'll throw 4 or 5 punches and sprawl, and 4 or 5 punches for an interval time. So I get my heart rate up really high, but it's just short little bursts to keep that interval training up. And then usually I'll have like a 2 or 3 mile jog that I'll do light. I'll keep my heart rate up. So we still do those little short burst conditionings, but it's not a 20-minute all out, just drain myself, because I want to try and peak, but I don't want to lose the conditioning that I've worked so hard for. And then, I go over some of the drills and some of the series that I regularly do for grappling and wrestling, and the punches to the takedown and kicks to takedowns, and then some defensive stuff. And so I keep it pretty intense while I'm out here, and I make sure to keep up the pace. I basically take one day off, and during that day, my light was just a light 2 mile jog. I mean, I didn't even get my heart rate up.
Oh wow, okay. You actually do a lot more work than I anticipated. From a lot of guys I've talked to lately are coming in and are basically resting and doing just enough to cut weight. You're actually getting through another cycle of workouts that most people don't want to do because for fear of getting. I've done that method. Go ahead.
But I feel that my legs get heavy and lactic, and so I like to keep that pace up. But my practice is no longer than 45 minutes, or tops an hour with a stretch, and that's about what I like to do my first little weight cut at, is about an hour, and I try to keep it under an hour. So, it's not I try and keep it as simple as possible, and let my coaches do the thinking, because you start cutting weight and you start not thinking, and you start worrying and get nervous and things like that, rather than relaxing and going out and doing what we should do, and that's fight to win,
Wow, that's actually a really good training cycle, and you've actually educated me a little bit on how to do some stuff during fight week. Let's talk about Robert Whitaker now. Let's talk about your opponent. You're coming in at 15-3. He's coming in at 11-2. But break down Robert Whitaker for me as you see him as an opponent.
I don't know much about him. I watched one of his fights. He fought Colton, the other Ultimate Fighter winner, and I watched a little bit of that fight, and it was during the fight, and that was before I knew I was fighting him. But I know he has a martial arts background, so do I, and he kind of transferred into MMA, and so did I. Looks like he blitzes, and he's got pretty good, hand speed. But biggest thing for me is I try not to worry about my opponent or what he's doing. I try and worry about what I need to do, because I've had times where I watched the other opponent and thought, I got to look for a right hand. And then I find myself waiting for his right hand to come in, and then bam, I get hit with the right hand. And so it kind of messes with me a little bit. And the only specific one I can kind of tell you about is Jeremy Horn. I watched him head kick and knock out Forrest Griffin like 3,000 times right before I fought him. He was my 7th professional fight, and I thought this head kick was coming. And you know what? He didn't throw a head kick not once. He didn't throw a high kick not once. All he did is push me against the cage and try and take me down. And so I thought, man, I'm going to stop watching footage, because I don't know what the guy's going to do. And as long as we know the gist, I'll let my coaches watch it or do whatever they want to do, and then they can adjust my training. That way I don't worry about what he's doing. I worry about what I need to do. And I need to go out there and punch this guy in the face and move my feet. And if he gives me an opening, take him down. And if he gives me another opening to submit him, or, get to a position where I can, hit him until they stop it, then that's what I need to look for. So I try not to worry about what he's going to do and what he's doing, because then I get in my head. And if I put that aside, I don't waste energy on what I think he's going to do. I put energy into what I should be doing and focus on what I need to do. And I've been more successful doing that.
And to be honest with you, I really think that that's the way a lot of fighters should be doing it. They spend so much time watching film, and they do expect, just like you said, they do expect their opponent to do certain things that they're not going to do. just because they've advanced as well as fighters. So it's better to watch some film, understand the gist of what's happening with this opponent, what's going on. But then you're right, truly worry about yourself, and I think the fights will go a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, you come out and you have two NCAA All-Americans that end up striking the whole fight. They don't even shoot on each other, and so it's kind of like, or a jiu-jitsu guy that comes out and they don't even go to the ground. Or you have an all-striker and he comes out and shoots the whole time. And so, you just never really know. And over my career, I've tried to constantly improve in every aspect of MMA. And the most important thing for me is to get in shape. It's the worst thing to do. It's the hardest. It messes with my head. And it's the most difficult to show up for and to give your best when you're in there. And you know this, man. You've been to the top. And so I like to make sure that, as long as I put everything into my conditioning and try and improve in the wrestling and improve in the jiu-jitsu and the striking, then I should become an overall better martial artist. And I try and push the limits on the conditioning every time because, as soon as that guy is done, you fatigue and you give out, the champion can go to nothing. If you don't have nothing left, you don't have anything left. That's it.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it is the one thing that you can control yourself, no matter how good or how bad your coaches are, is your own conditioning. And really, it comes down to a lot of that. Especially when we're talking about like heavier weights. Now, obviously, not your weight class. We're talking about like heavyweights. When it comes down to that third round, the guy that's the heavyweight that's in better shape always ends up winning because there's so much power being thrown around. And that's really true for anybody. In any weight class. It's just more exponential at the heavyweight division, but. Obviously, you come in, like I said, it's your 3 losses that you have are all decisions. You've got 3 KOs, 7 submissions, and 5 decisions. And if it goes to decision, it 5 times out of the 8 times it goes to decision, you end up winning it because of your conditioning and your power, and you're getting better every time you go out there. Is that, I know you strive to push your conditioning every single time. Is that always something that's always in the back of your head? Oh crap, camp is coming again. I've been off for a month and a half. Now it's when I start ramping up my conditioning. Is that the toughest part of camp for you? Is really getting your conditioning back?
No, because what I try to do when I'm not in camp. So for the last 3 or 4 months, no matter what, I'll condition either 1 to 2 long conditioning periods, like the hard ones, and then I'll have 1 or 2 little short ones, and then I make sure to grapple and every once in a while I'll come to sparring and things like that. So I keep it. I mean, I keep it. I have a short time to shine in this industry, and my number one goal is to get as good as I can get, and do the best that I can do, and so I make sure to keep up on the conditioning. So when it is time to 8 weeks out to really start focusing, I'm not just dying the first 3 weeks of camp, and I don't. A lot of times I don't like doing it, but man, I'll tell you what, you don't condition for a couple of weeks or a month, and then you come back, and the first time you get on that rower, or first time you do one of those nasty ones, I mean, man, you want to talk about wanting to give up, from the start. So I don't ever like to get in that position and put myself in that position. Plus, you never know when you're going to get that call short notice, and you have an opportunity to go and fight, and I want to make sure that I'm always prepared to do that. So I take the time, and I look at it as my job being a professional athlete, and I take it serious year-round so that I don't have to go through that nasty time. And it's still nasty, man. It's still hard to make that change. And it does, man. When you ramp it up, it can really get difficult. But, for me, as long as I don't give up and I do the best I can do, then, things turn out just the way they're supposed to. And as long as I accept that, man, life can be pretty good.
Well, Cord, I want to appreciate you. I appreciate you coming on here with MMA Oddsbreaker. I know it's coming up on fight time, so I know it's tough getting a hold of you.
It's the first time we've ever talked, man.
Yeah, I like it, and I'm sorry. It's my fault because Hackerman has given me your number before and tried to get you in, and I didn't want to bother you the week of a fight, trying to get you on for an interview. And he's like, no, don't worry, Cord, he's fine. He's not like the other guys. He's fine. I'm like, all right, I'll text him and see what he does. I'm not going to hold my breath. And you hit me back right away, and I really appreciate that because I do know it's fight week. I do know how tough it is being in that space. But now that we got you on here one time, now just realize every time you fight, you're going to be on.
Cool, man. Well, I appreciate that, man. I've always been a fan of yours. I've always watched you. I appreciate all that you've accomplished in your career. So I appreciate you taking the time to do an interview with me.
Thanks, Carl. I really appreciate that, man. It means a lot coming from you because I'm a fan of yours as well. It's weird now being this older guy and being a fan of a lot of the athletes I get to interview now, and you're one of the guys I'm a fan of. I really enjoy watching you progress every time that you fight. You get a little bit better.
That's humility, man, and I appreciate that.
All right, Carl. You have a great rest of the day, and we'll talk to you soon, bud.